Good day. We've got CEO Cory Giasson and COO Colin Bletsky of MustGrow Biologics joining us today. MustGrow is an ag tech company focused on patented natural, science-based plant protection and soil amendment solutions. It's been 8 months or the end of April since we last talked with MustGrow. And while MustGrow doesn't put out a lot of news, it's been quite a busy stretch for the company with 4 significant news items. From signing an agreement to develop and commercialize soil amendment and biofertility technologies to completing their initial commercial production of their biocontrol liquid to the expansion of the Janssen project partnership, and finally to today's news of the receipt of organic approval for its fertilizer and soil amendment technology. The company has been busy. We're looking forward to a brief update and then questions from the audience. And I'm Martin Gagel with Market Radius Research. It's Tuesday, October 31st. Happy Halloween, everyone. Please remember, this is neither recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Gentlemen, welcome back. As always, it's great to have you here. You've been busy. Can you please start it off with a brief overview for the new viewers and investors, as well as a bit of a refresher for the rest of us? Thanks a lot.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Martin. Pleasure to be here. My name's Cory Giasson, President and CEO of the company, and with me today is Colin Bletsky, our Chief Operating Officer. It's a pleasure to present to you again. As you mentioned, we are going to do this presentation as an update to our existing shareholders and then also an introduction to potential shareholders that are listening. So about MustGrow, we're an ag biotech company based in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and we extract the natural defense mechanism of the mustard seed. It's what provides the mustard, the spicy bite when you have, say, Dijon mustard or what have you. This defense mechanism, it's a 2-component system, and we're bringing it back in a commercial form. These plant extracts, we're bringing them back in a commercial form to help farmers grow crops in a sustainable way, in a natural, organic, biological way. So we'll get right into the presentation. Before I begin, I'd like to draw your attention to our disclaimer. Now, this disclaimer is your typical forward-looking statement disclaimer. We're going to be making forward-looking statements in this presentation, which may or may not come to fruition. It can be read in detail on our website at mustgrow.ca. So what are we trying to do here at MustGrow? We're bringing back this natural plant extract from the mustard seed to help farmers grow crops in a sustainable way. They are trying to grow crops, and the number one thing their objective is to maximize their yield, to grow that crop so that they can maximize their return on investment. To do so, they need to fight off diseases and pests that persist and help negatively affect these yields. And just how are they going to do it in the future when some of the synthetic chemistries or the synthetic fertilizers are being banned or deregistered? What we're bringing back is a natural, organic alternative to help feed the soil microbiome and also to help fend off these pests and diseases. So it's a natural, organic way, a sustainable way for them to grow crops. And it's a natural alternative to some of these chemistries or fertilizers that are being banned or deregistered. We are the technology company. We own 84 issued and pending patents. It's grown substantially over the last few years from about 30. And we also have trade secrets on the production process. We're a public company on the TSX Venture Exchange and also on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol MGRO in Canada and MGROF in the United States. 50 million shares outstanding, a very tight capital structure. Now, we've had these 50 million shares outstanding for the last few years, and that's very important to us as management and also our board because we're shareholders in this company as well. We have a 2-year plus cash runway, which hopefully will be enough time for us to move from a pre-revenue company to a revenue generating company, either through commercial agreements and also or sales with a registered product. The markets that we're focused on are threefold. First of all, the soil amendment and biofertility market. We want to provide these mustard extracts to help build up the soil microbiome, to help feed those microbes in the soil to help maximize crop yields. And we just made an announcement today that we've received organic certification, OMRI certification for Terra Sante, which is what we're targeting for this market. On the biocontrol side, we want to use these mustard extracts to help fight off the diseases and the pests, and that either as a pre-plant soil fumigant or also on the post-harvest food side to help treat the diseases or the pests, say in a storage bin, and help preserve food. Now we're partnered around the world, and these partnerships have come to fruition over the last few years, and we're very excited about them because, during that time, during COVID or whatever, we were able to go global and test this technology in a variety of different areas with a variety of different partners around the world and different soils or different applications. So we're quite excited about working with these groups and the work that they've done. So it's all about sustainable agriculture and food security. So as I mentioned, how are farmers going to grow crops in the future when some of the chemistries are being banned or deregistered? And I could probably have about 4 slides of chemistries that are being deregistered or fertilizers that are starting to be starting to see some control on the amount of fertilizer use as well. This is an example, CPIC, chlorofam, that was banned in Europe in 2019. Now, there was about $60 million of this chemical that was applied annually to prevent potato sprouting on potatoes. So it would be on the post-harvest food side. And we're now partnered with Janssen in this area to hopefully get this technology registered. We own the patent. We've licensed it from the University of Idaho that utilizes AITC, our active ingredient, on the biocontrol and the post-harvest side to help treat these potatoes, not only from sprouting prevention, but also disease prevention. So we're quite excited about working in this area. And that's just one example of the chemistries that are being banned or deregistered. There's going to be many more of them in the future, and natural products such as our technology are going to be needed.
Sorry, yeah. I said I wasn't going to interrupt too much, but here, when you talk about post-harvest, they harvest the potatoes, they put them in the back of trucks or big containers, and then they would spray it or apply your chemistry onto it, which would then act as a natural, stop bad mold or whatever from growing and allow them to stay fresh longer. Is that the sort of layman's way of saying it?
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of application, it potentially could be sprayed on or also fumigated into the bin and that. So we're working with Janssen and other partners to see how we can get this technology into the bin and allow the farmer or the company doing the storage not to have to change what they're doing. They'd be able to be applied very similar to what CPIC or how CPIC was applied in the past. So they wouldn't have to change what they're doing. But specifically, CPIC was used to prevent sprouting of those potatoes. Potatoes need to be stored for up to 9 months. So they're going to sprout and that. And there's some potatoes, they would get 2 applications of this CPIC. So we're quite excited about this. And we've got results that show that we were just as effective as CPIC. We went head to head versus this. And we made that announcement, I believe, last year, Colin, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, a while ago.
Yeah, a while ago. So we're quite excited about what AITC can do in the patent that we've licensed from the University of Idaho around sprouting on potatoes and utilizing our active from mustard. Ag chem companies are moving towards naturals and that to help replace some of the chemistries. And there's an example right there, Syngenta committing $2 billion towards new targets in terms of sustainable agriculture. It's because of jurisdictions around the world, regulators are moving towards natural products. And you can see an example here. The EU slated to go to 25% organic acres by 2030. So that's a lot of land in the European Union that cannot get synthetic chemicals or fertilizers. So they're going to need alternatives such as the one that we have here. So we're quite excited about the spot that we're in. We're excited to be part of agriculture. There's a growing population. More and more food is going to be needed. What we see here right now, by 2030, they're estimating the total market size for fertilizers and pesticides is slated to be about $325 billion. Of that, about 35 million would be on the biocontrol, the soil amendment, biofertility side. It is a smaller segment of that larger market, but it's a rapidly growing segment at double-digit CAGRs. And that's because of the need to replace these chemistries and the demand for organic products.
So when we talk about our technologies, and this is one of the key slides when you think about what we have and what we've been working towards. I've been in biological industry for many years, for over 15 years. And one of the key areas where biologicals have not had the penetration into markets around the globe is just based on, in most cases, they're more challenging for a grower to use. And what we've tried to do with our new formulations, with the technologies that we have, whether that be our biocontrol, post-harvest, or into the soil amendment technologies, is to keep it simple. So when you look at our technologies, they're safe and organic, and not only safe to humans, but also safe to the environment, safe to the soil, and organic, which opens up many different markets. The positive soil health, as a farmer myself, soil is the key aspect and key asset that I own. And if you look at some regions around the world, whether you go into India, China, and parts of the US, soils are becoming dead and not healthy, and they're losing a lot of production and that food opportunity for the growers. On a technology, you need to be economical and scalable. We've been able to show the scalability, we've been able to show the economics, and in this case, our plan with our technologies, you can go head to head versus the synthetic chemistries at the same price point and have a very good gross margin. It's a low environmental impact with our technologies. They're flexible, so as a farmer myself, I don't need to go and buy new equipment. I can use exactly what I have to date. And the big thing is with our partners' data, with what we've seen internally, with all the work we've done around the world, we've been able to show that our technologies are effective and they are efficient. And this is key. In a lot of cases, biologicals are not at the same level as chemistries, and we're able to go head to head with our own data as well as our partners' data right around the world, showing that same level of efficacy. So when you think about this, we've taken every single barrier away with our unique technologies and our formulation, our natural product, and we can go now compete head to head versus synthetic chemistries when we do acquire our registrations. So when you look at the areas we're working across these 4 key spots. And so you have our near term kind of areas and an R&D type of areas. So in the soil biocontrol, this is roughly about a $17.5 billion opportunity right around the globe. And currently we have registration work ongoing in North American market for pre-plant biopesticide, in other markets as well around the world. If you look at our partnerships in these areas, already partnered with Bayer, Sumitomo, and NexusBioAg, and really driving the brand Terra MG. And this is our first kind of foray into this biocontrol area. The soil amendment area, if you look at it, is roughly about an $8 billion opportunity around the world. And this was an announcement we did today with TerraSante. We're extremely excited to get that OMRI certification in the time frame we did. And the registration work right now is ongoing, still in the US. And this is the first play. We want to make into the US and then look at expanding that technology in other parts of the world, depending on where we see the impact and the opportunity. So right now we're working with BioAg product strategies, really looking at our distribution, really looking at our marketing strategy, looking at many different areas to get into that US area. And this is TerraSante. So these 2 products would be the closest to market, would be the closest to commercialization, and all just pending registration work. But in this area, working with key partners who continue to drive this, continue to drive the data, continue to drive the knowledge base for us, and there's a lot of excitement in those. If you look on the stuff that's more R&D and earlier stage, this would be in that post-harvest biocontrol, as well as the food preservation, and really working with Janssen PMP. And in an R&D stage, it's a large opportunity for us, and Janssen brings the expertise, the knowledge, and the people that we don't have. They are selling right now chemistries for this market into 49 different countries. They have a key R&D team, and there's a lot of excitement working with them. And then expanding on the TerraSante brand, really looking at the biofertility space. And we all hear, countries want to cut back by 30% on fertilizers. If you look at even in Canada, that discussion is happening here. There will be in the future a very large opportunity to look at how we can impact that fertility market and go forward. And we see about a $7 billion opportunity, but really looking earlier stage at what we can bring in on a natural scale to help our technology. So when you look at and you're thinking about what's close to commercialization and what's still in the pipeline, this is how we view it.
Just sort of going back to that slide, the soil amendment and biofertilizer seem very similar. How do you sort of segment or differentiate what is soil amendment versus a biofertilizer?
They are similar, Martin, to be honest, but there are some key differences. When you look at the soil amendment, one of the key parts of our product is when it breaks down into simple sugars, proteins, carbohydrates. So essentially, these feed the soil microbiome. And it's just like a human. If our soil or our gut health is not good, we will not uptake enough of the nutrients. We will not utilize the food that we eat as well as we can. We will not be as healthy as we could be. And it's very similar to the soil. If you look at some of the chemistries, the fertilizers, things that are being used right now, they're very persistent in the soil. And with our technology, you can go in and put it into the soil, and it actually feeds those microbiome and the beneficials and helps them repopulate and actually increase their population. A biofertility product would be more something utilizing our soil amendment product and adding in potentially additional natural nitrogen or additional natural sulfur or potassium, phosphorus. So it's really looking at those stages, what we can do. And so they're similar, but it's still a little bit of a difference.
And then when your soil is good and healthy, you actually need fewer biocontrols and pesticides and things like that, because the plant is inherently stronger, because it's the ground it's coming out is healthier and so forth. So that's and there's less erosion and so forth. Those are just some of the benefits that when the farmer gets from using soil amendment to make a healthy soil.
I would say, I'd love to say that, but we're always going to be dealing with things like nematodes, other diseases and insects. It's just a natural process within agriculture. And when I view these technologies, they are complementary. So if you can utilize, and you'll be able to utilize a product like Terrasante pre-plant and earlier stage to help with your soil, and still be able to utilize Terra MG to come in and look at the nematode control as well as the disease control. So yes, if you have a healthier soil, your plant is healthier, you have a better root system, you're taking up more water, utilizing more nutrients, it is healthier, but you are still getting attacked by those diseases, nematodes and others. So they, even in Canada, I'm gonna say we have the greatest insecticide in the world, and that's minus 40 degrees centigrade. But we still get things like flea beetles and wireworms and other things impacting our crops here in Canada. So in my mind, there's always gonna be a need, but these are all complementary. And we are looking at how we can utilize them in many different factors. So I always like thinking in my farmer mind, these are tools in the toolbox. Each one of these is a tool. And how do you utilize that tool to get to your maximum yield with the most impact? And that's the way I see this. And then, this is one, we still get lots of questions, what's going on with our partners? And I have to say, we have tremendous partners who do and have done and continue to do amazing work for us. And looking at where we are, going forward with NexusBioAg into the bat trials and really expanding that program, expanding with Sumitomo and getting more understanding of South American markets and what's going on in those regions. And then looking what Bayer has accomplished for us, essentially driving that data, understanding and knowledge across the other other big areas. They've been very key in this and really has helped us along. And I keep going back, if this was 4 years ago and we didn't have a lot of these partners, we still would be focused in the US. So it's really, they've helped us take us global, and they continue to be strong proponents for us, and really excited to continue to work with these organizations.
Colin, can you give us just very briefly, like there are 4 different relationships, but I think they're roughly structured the same. Who does what work, and what are they doing, and what are you doing? Just so the audience really understands how the partnership works. I think that I've talked to a lot of people where I think maybe there's a bit of confusion on who does what and how. And
well, in each case, we work together, and that's the key thing. So we have a good understanding of our technology and the way to produce. And so I would say, first and foremost, we are the production experts, we're the process experts, we have the technology, and that's what we bring to the table, the knowledge behind it. When you starting to look at different soils, different weather patterns, different crops, you can have a multitude, and I keep saying this, think of a Rubik's Cube that doesn't just have 9 blocks on each side, think of one that has 36 blocks on each side. You can keep mixing and matching. There's so many different complexities where they help us work through those. So if you think of different formulations, different application techniques, different types of things in region, is MustGrow going to be able to hire people and go do work in Japan or India or South Africa? It would take a lot of our people to do so. So we take care of the process of the product, the production of it, the technology base, and we work with them and deliver a lot of that knowledge around the globe. And they do a lot of the in-field stuff utilizing their teams. And when I talk about their teams, there's thousands of people probably around the globe looking at this and helping to deliver this technology, to understand it, to get it to that commercialization stage.
And they are the ones pushing it through the registration, the approval process, correct?
It depends on the country, and it's going to depend on the product. But they are doing everything within these agreements we have with them. They are funding the registration currently up to that certain R&D stage. But then different countries have different rules, Martin. So it depends where you go. But in each case, they are there along the way with us, helping us out. Yes.
And there's not a lot of news on the individual partnerships. Those are private agreements and so forth. Can you generally say how they're going, or if something had really fallen apart, would you be required to tell us that, hey, this isn't working, or something's not good here?
Yeah, so I would say on the process and how things are going, we still work with them. They're still we're still in good talks and had great meetings and moving things forward in a lot of different ways. But if something did bad happen and they totally longer wanted to work with us, we definitely would be bound to disclose that ASAP. But in each of these cases, looking forward, and we do mention this, we are in still that testing phase. There'll always be a testing phase no matter where you are, because different countries are different countries. But we are moving towards that commercialization and those discussions. So and we've been in those discussions for a long time with these folks. So it's moving along. And for me, working in this industry for close to 30 years now, doing a lot of these deals in the past, sometimes things just take time, and sometimes a lot of that stuff that's taking time is outside of your scope and what's going on. And but for the most part, very good discussions, and I would say a lot of good work is ongoing and has been done by these folks. And then I guess this leads into kind of that comment on commercialization. How do we see this, and where do we see this? And I talked about this Rubik's Cube, and I would say that's the key area, because when you look at our technology, it could go broad right across the globe, and you can sign one big deal and you're done. You can look at licensing this even into areas country by country level, even crop by crop or application by application. And in most cases, this is where you'll see money up front. You'll see investments, milestones. You'll see a big investment from your partner, and then usually a good royalty structure. So that's one area that there's a possibility. There's buy and supply agreements. This is with other industry partners where it's just a straight buy and supply and their distribution of your product. If I look at something like product production and distribution, to me, this is in a case or area where we're likely going to start with, or potentially going to start with TerraSante, produce it on our own, work with a good partner like BioAg Product Strategies, find the right distribution partners, find the right key influencers in the industry at a farmer level, work with them and build up that sales base, and essentially sell directly to distribution and be able to do that. You can do that, and then that can lead into either licensing, it can lead into other partnerships or other areas. I look at other partnerships, and this is looking at finding different partners around the globe on essentially buy and supply or different types of agreements. And then, of course, there's always the M&A side, but I would say over the past roughly about 18 months in the agriculture space, it has slowed down just with interest rates and a lot of the uncertainties. So we have seen a little bit of a slowdown on that side on the M&A, but there are a lot of other areas that are starting to speed up again and have a lot of opportunities. So when you look at this, and then I think it all depends on country, it depends on value, depends on who you're working with and how you want to split this up to create as much value and tension between those partners as well over time. So this is how we see the commercialization side. And I would say the one where probably we'll get to, especially on a product production and distribution, would be TerraSante. I'm very excited about the OMRI certification and the ability to look at that now and really drive it at a farm gate level to get people excited and start bringing that product in once we get the state registrations.
So these are all, just to clarify, different paths you could go down with one of your partners. Partner A says, yeah, you know what, we want to just license it and manufacture it and deal with that ourselves. And then you structure the appropriate licensing royalty deal. And a different partner may want to do a buy and supply deal for a certain segment of the market. And these are just all the options that are on the table, essentially.
Correct. It's a very complex industry, and it's a very complex market. So there's many different ways to slice it up and many different ways to work with folks.
Yeah, and I think our strategy from day one has been to allow these partners, the collaboration agreements that we have here is for exclusive testing trials in certain areas. So we've allowed them to test and to see results on their own, to verify that the technology works. We've checked that box in a lot of areas, and that it hasn't been across the whole region and that, but because there's a lot of countries out there, a lot of different geographies, but we have built a business case with them to show that it's effective, and then also economic, and also identified a path to registration. Now, how do they access this commercially? And that's where we're at here right now, and we have been for some time. It takes time to do deals with these partners, but once we do have a commercial agreement in place, we want to be able to produce product. And we were very excited earlier this year to announce our first commercial production run at a toll manufacturer. It was about a 2-week run. We produced about 5,000 kgs of extract, and that's significant for us, because as a pre-revenue company, we didn't have to go in and invest in a pilot facility to go and do that. We were able to save that capital to go and do that. We were able to use a toll manufacturer. We're also going to be taking a look at these toll manufacturers to see if we can get agreements in place for them to do production, at 1 million to 2 million liters annually of Terra MG equivalent. And I say equivalent because it could be Terra Sante, which it comes in a different form and formulation, or also can it be expanded out to be about maybe 5 to 10 million liters. So we want to be able to hit the ground running and be able to produce products so that we can sell into the market once we do have a registration, and also these some commercial partnerships. And you can see on this slide what 1 to 2 million liters near-term production potentially could be for the company. Now, this is a grower level revenue, or a retail level revenue of $15 to $30 million US on that 1 to 2 million liters, and only a fraction, about 0.05% of our targeted fruit and veggie areas. That's of our attainable fruit and vegetable market. So it's again, significant potential revenues with toll manufacturing. We believe that there's other facilities that we can identify around the world that can do this. And we're quite excited about that, because it means that we're not going to have to invest significant amounts of money into CapEx or capital for a facility. And that means that our capital structure is going to remain tight. That 50 million shares that I mentioned at the beginning, it's very important for us to keep that as low as possible. We've had it at 50 million shares for the last 2 years. We've envisioned that staying there. We envision that, with the cash on hand here, we can get through the next few years and hopefully see a turnaround in the market, and in that time frame, move towards commercialization. Have some of the commercial agreements that Colin mentioned, hopefully in place. Have a registered product, and with initial sales, and that. So we're excited about that, and excited about the prospects of keeping our capital structure very tight. Over the last few years, we've de-risked this company, and this is what we're focused on. It's not necessarily the swings in the share price, stuff that we can't control, but it's more on the things that we can control, and it comes down to operations. Getting these agreements signed. There's a reason why Colin, who's been on the other side, dealing with the small junior tech companies, the reason why we signed them this way, because we knew that they're going to want to test, and that we could go and spend tens of millions of dollars and take decades and decades to go and get all that information, whether it be field trials in China or where have you. We don't have the team to do that. We need to use their R&D teams, their regulatory teams, and their scientific teams to help us do those tests, all knowing very well that they needed this information. They needed to verify it on their own. And by bringing these partnerships in over the last few years, we're sitting in a very great position here right now. The uplist to the TSX Venture Exchange. I mean, we haven't seen the fruits of that yet, but it's been a great uplist from the CSE, which was a great exchange in its own. But again, we're rapidly moving towards commercialization and potential revenues down the road, and we want to be on a larger exchange. We've seen expansions in these partnerships. Sumitomo exercised their option. Janssen announced an expansion with them to do more work, more heavy work. And by the way, the work that they were doing on the post-harvest food preservation side, that was blue sky a year ago. We didn't know that would work. We had a feeling that AITC would be a benefit there, and but the work that they've done, has been excellent. We continue to learn, and we continue to drive this from being blue sky to early stage R&D to hopefully down the road advanced R&D and then into commercialization. And then our most recent announcement here, the organic certification. Quite excited about that. But our focus is to continue to drive this, to continue to drive more and more value through operations and stuff that we can control. And hopefully soon we'll come out of this negative market that we're in. And what you can see here is the relative equity performance. I mean, we're down 73% since November of 2021. But it's not just us. You know, some of our peers in this market, you can see on this slide, are also down significantly. So again, our whole goal here is to focus on operations and to continue to drive value. And when we come outside the other end of this negative market that we're in here, that you know, we believe that the investment thesis is going to remain. There's going to be a need for sustainable products in agriculture, and that's even going to get stronger and stronger as we go forward. We're seeing it play out in front of us, and we're going to come out the other end looking pretty good as not a pre-revenue company, but a revenue generating company, and that's the whole goal here in 2023 and going into 2024. And we've got the team to do it. You know, Colin, with his expertise in agriculture, in ag chemistry and ag biologics, Todd Lottie, our CFO, a lot of experience in a variety of different industries, done about $2.5 billion in transactions in the capital markets. And our advisory team, we've got the expert in Dave Maines and the production advisor, the know-how on these plant extracts and how to extract them from oil seeds. Dr. Matt Mora, our scientific advisor, an expert in biologics around mustard, around brassica plants. We have a lot of know-how within our company. Mark Hetherington, we brought him on as a formulation advisor, our scientist in terms of the chemistry around our active. And then Jameson Bondarenko, our capital markets advisor, helping us lead us through these capital markets and all that. And then I will mention too, our board. We've got a very diverse group of board members that help guide us as we go forward. So happy to take any questions, and I'd like to thank everybody for their investment in MustGrow and their interest.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Before we go to the numerous questions we have in the audience, I want to clarify something from 3 or 4 slides ago when you talked about the revenue generated from the 15 to $30 million of grower level revenue. Can you just clarify? That wouldn't necessarily be MustGrow's revenues. That's what the distributor would sell it to the farmer in total for, or can you just give us some clarification and nuance on that?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the distributor or the retailer. So there'd be the others would have to be paid through the supply chain and all that as well. So yeah. We don't give too much detail on that because we also have to protect some of our information for competition purposes.
For sure. And then as well, if it's under the licensing model or the royalty model, you may have just a few percentage points of that, but it would be 100% margin. If you're producing it and selling it, and then you would have a different margin structure on it. So it's really, however the commercial agreement lays itself out is going to affect how that, like smaller revenues with huge margins or larger revenues with smaller margins on it, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're right. And what Colin mentioned in a few slides ago on the economics, we're not just looking at this from economics from our point of view and us generating a margin, but also from the farmer's point of view. Are we able to sell our technology at a price competitive with synthetic chemicals, which really isn't done in the biological space, but we want to penetrate as many acres as possible. We want to be able to generate a healthy margin and be able to compete versus synthetic chemical pricing.
So there's got to be enough margin for everyone along the chain, and how you can maximize the value of this for MustGrow and its investors.
You bet. Yep.
All right. Let's move on to audience questions here. We are running a little, not short on time, but we've got to be brisk with our answers here. Some detailed questions on Sumitomo and as well the status of the Bayer partnership. Can you, what can you say about those partnerships? They're confidential partnerships. You mentioned that things are going well. Anything else you can add?
No, as we said in the past, Martin, we've been in negotiations and talking through how the next stage of commercialization looks, and how that looks is really that's part of the contracts, the potential contracts, and none of that can be disclosed. So you know what, I would say if I've never seen anything disclosed like that before anything's announced, and even after things are announced, I don't think a lot of things get put in. But the main the main, I would say, gist of it is we continue to work with these folks. We continue to drive towards those commercialization stage and the agreements, and we continue to look at all opportunities.
Can you discuss, and I'm just paraphrasing another question here, on the registration process? How far out or how soon could one maybe expect a product to be registered for an application in a country or a region?
Well, if you look at TerraSante, I would say that one with the OMRI status now and the state registrations, we mentioned this on another webinar, state registrations for the biofertility product are a lot quicker. And we're hopeful that we will be, in place soon. What does soon mean? It's all up to the U.S. governments and the state governments. But
soon could mean 2024?
Soon can mean 2024. It could mean end of 2023. It could be, it all depends. And the states are a lot quicker than the bigger, broader EPA, PMRA, and other organizations. So,
and you would be able to sell into those registered states without having to wait for the EPA registration?
They're two separate ones, Martin. So you have the state registration. So the Soil Amendment Biofertility product line do not need to go through EPA. Okay. They are just amending the soil. They're adding the fertility products. So those go through the states in the US. In Canada, that would still have to go through CFIA, and other countries it has to go through different organizations. But they are two different separate entities, just like the FDA is different than the EPA.
Are any of the global partners shareholders of MustGrow at this time?
Not to our knowledge.
Can you give some insight of your milestones or the milestones that are set for the global partner? Are your own expectations, or did you miss any important milestones?
Based on the agreements and based on what we're working with on, the milestones, I say were met from our global partner standpoint. Now, my internal personal milestones, and this is us, we always work to be and try to be as fast as we can, but we have to understand and realize these things do take time, specifically when you're starting to look at the dynamics and the, I think, broad applicability of our technology in the different regions. The globe is a very, very big place. This is a really big industry, which each individual country having different dynamics. So I would say maybe on a personal level, I'm maybe behind on my milestones when it comes to getting this to commercial agreements. But I would say when I look back to my experience in the day, it's probably right on track with where I've seen this in the past.
Will you be applying for organic certification for your biopesticide fumigant product Terra MG?
Yes.
Have you had any difficulty demonstrating the environmental safety of your formulations?
No, we haven't. Again, there's a lot of information out there on AITC. The fact that it has a very low residue. In fact, you can't even detect it once it's been in the soil for 72 hours and that. So there's a lot of good information that we have out there. So
this is a question from the audience. Generally speaking, biopesticides usually do not work very well. How do your products compare to synthetic products?
Yeah, and this is something I mentioned in that slide as why we're different. And this is why we've worked with our partners as well to be able to show them that it works. And in field trials, head-to-head, our technology has been performing as well as synthetic pesticides when you're looking at the soil nematode platform, as well in most cases a soil disease platform. And in Cory mentioned on the post-harvest side, there is data showing that we are performing as well as the synthetic chemicals. And the one key thing around this too is when you look at dose rate, you look at pricing, and you look at the ability to use our product, there are no differences. So we believe a farmer, and if I was my farm, would take a natural organic product that's safer, easier to use, healthier for your soil, then you would go after a pesticidal product if everything's the same. But this is why we do see, and this is why I'm so excited, is we see a tremendous amount of opportunity to go and compete versus not only synthetic chemicals, but also other biological products.
I guess on an April 23rd presentation, you said MustGrow was actively seeking registration in US, Canada, Mexico with potential revenues in the next 12 months. Is that timeline still possible?
12 months from April 23rd, I don't think that's possible, but it is on track. It is in process, yes. We are actively seeking those. And again, we're dependent on government agencies here. And so it's very hard for us to to provide guidance of when.
You said you don't need EPA approval for TerraSante. Given that, will you commercialize TerraSante on a state-by-state basis in the US, or do you need to have a critical mass at state-level approvals before you commercialize?
So we don't need EPA approvals, and once we do get the state approvals, that's why we're working with BioAg production strategies to look at each state individually and how we target through either distribution models or other type of models. Yeah, we will be able to once we do have those registrations.
Why did Bayer choose to partner with you? It seems like MustGrow product is actually a threat to the products they currently sell.
Yeah, and I'd like to say they partnered with us because of me, but I'm not going to say that. They partnered with us because of the technology. And actually, in this scope of where we are, if you look at the risk that a company like Bayer has in the EU, 2030 is coming quick. And after 2030, not being able to register any new chemistries, it's a significant gap in their portfolio, not only for them, Bayer, but also for Syngenta, for BASF, and for others. So when you look at new technologies and technologies that work, specifically biologicals, there are not many there. And I would have to say most large chemical organizations still think like a chemical organization. They need something that's consistent, that works, and can make them money.
Do you anticipate your 2024 field trials with NexusBio will provide enough data to support your regulatory applications, or do you foresee more research in 2025?
So the 2024 field trials for Nexus, we don't need any more data to support our data package. It's already in. The field trials with Nexus are all around building a broader scope with farmers and making sure farmers can see it. And one of the things about commercialization of new products, a farmer is not going to use a technology broad base across his entire land base. They're going to use a little bit at a time and move. Those trials give us that information. We will be working with many, many farmers across Western Canada through Nexus in larger scale situations through their own equipment, showing the value. And these farmers are going to be the key influencers. So that gives Nexus a tremendous amount of data, knowledge, and marketing ability with our technology. And it's very similar to what I'm thinking potentially with TerraSante in the US.
A question here on the R&D and I guess registration process. Looking on the R&D, can you tell where we are in terms of timeline, i.e. in the pharma industry, R&D is structured into different phases, like a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trial, which are known timeframes, and the FDA actually has to reply in a certain amount of time. Is it structured in the same way with the EPA or with the state regulators?
No, you're on their timescale.
We've seen many examples of biocontrol companies being acquired by large multinationals. Is this in MustGrow's future? Why not already? Are there doubts about efficacy?
Well, what I'd say there is that, and Colin alluded to this in the presentation, that the market has changed as of right now for the M&A in this industry. Again, I guess the risk on has been is not there right now. So in terms of M&A, they want to see a company that's been de-risked in towards commercialization. That's what we're working for. We continue to generate value, and if there is M&A in the future, we will be bringing it to our shareholders. But given the the downturn in the markets, I believe these companies aren't as active as they have been in the past.
Are your major partnership agreements open-ended with respect to time, or are the agreements renegotiated every so often for fixed time periods?
Yeah, and we've never announced the time frame of each individual agreement, which are all different, and they're different because we're working with very large multinational companies. So we didn't disclose any of that, but there are key metrics, timelines, and things that our large partners have to adhere to.
What are the basic raw materials of your products, and how will you source them? What have been the price fluctuations in your raw materials over the last few years?
So we utilize different species of mustard, and we have seen a spike in the price right now, given the fact that there was a drought in Western Canada. So how we will in the future be sourcing our mustard will be from growers, but what I envision is eventually we'll be contracting growers for mustard. for the species of mustards that we need. And, if we have a facility, say in Europe or Asia, we'll be contracting growers in those regions to supply the product there. For facilities here in Canada, it'll be the same. So in terms of us sourcing the raw material, it shouldn't be an issue. Mustard can be growing anywhere around the world.
There's a question here on the competitive landscape. Who are your most serious competitors, independent companies or major ag companies? And have you seen new or have there been new bio pesticides being launched in the market recently that are should be of interest?
Yeah, for us, our major competitors are the synthetic chemical companies really looking at that pre-plant soil applications. So I would say in this space, there really is no small biological company like us targeting that area. But looking at other biologicals, yeah, there's always biological products, mainly living organisms, looking at enzymes that are more foliar-based applications. So when I talked about the tools in the toolbox, we're one tool early on in the stage. Those other products would be potentially complementary down the line. So in our space, it is mainly the larger scale chemical organizations that we are targeting.
How does the product, I'm guessing the Terra MG, control clubroot and Apomyces, which I always say wrong? Is it a one-year application, a multi-year application, or how is that used?
Yeah, so it does control it. So AIT, the molecule that produces AITC is very broad spectrum, and it will disrupt the cell structures of those diseases and essentially kill them. Now, the second part of that question, is it a 1 year or multiple year? It depends. If you have clubroot and clubroot can go down up to 24 inches in your soil, you will not be getting our product down 24 inches to kill it. You'll never, in any case, kill it. So it will be a yearly application of that of our technologies to maintain that plant health and maintain the disease out. Very similar to what people do with weed control, with disease control and other crops. It is a very similar type of model.
OMRI covers US, Canada, and Mexico. Why did they only approve for the USA?
Yeah, that body does cover all three of those regions, and it does have a different designation in Europe. But you have to go to each individual one in each individual country. So first with Terrasante, as I mentioned, we are targeting the US first and foremost, hence why we went there. But yes, you're right. OMRI does cover all three, but you do have to go and apply it at each different one with the same data, the same package, everything. It's just I have to say, it's just another piece of paper the government wants money for to get that certificate. So, but that does cover it.
Has an environmental study been undertaken to assess whether MustGrow will operate at a net carbon neutral basis, or will it be carbon producing or carbon absorbing?
We haven't done that study yet. We are assessing it. In my opinion, we'll be carbon absorbing. With a healthier plant, we'll produce healthier soils, healthier plant. Healthier plant should be, sucking more carbon out of the atmosphere and all that. But again, that work needs to be applied, and we are assessing. It's a very interesting question.
And I think we're on to our last question, which is good timing because you have to leave in a minute. So have you applied to the CFIA for approval yet?
No, as I mentioned, Terrasante is first and foremost targeted at the US marketplace. Once we get that up and running, then we will look at the CFIA and other regions as well.
Well, gentlemen, I think our time is up. You've got things to do. Any final comments or thoughts as we wrap this up? And thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, no, thanks, Martin. And I just will make mention that on our website, mustgrow.ca, we have our contact information. If anybody ever has any questions, reach out to us. We're always happy to discuss.
Excellent. Gentlemen, have a great day. Thank you very much. All the best. And I look forward to getting future updates from MustGrow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martin.